have so many little pluses in your box to get that.
So, but top secret way back then. I mean,
Top secret.
Were you naive? Did you have no idea
No.
when you first came across this information?
I had some suspicions, and I was curious about the extraterrestrial
So you
issue.
had suspicions way back.
Oh,
what
yeah.
is this?
Oh, yeah.
In the 60s.
Well,
you had suspicions.
I went into the Army in 1950.
Right.
And I paid attention, and I used to read a lot. And I always had a nagging suspicion that there was something more going on out there than we were being told.
Did you know about underground bases at that point?
No, not at that time.
Uh-huh.
Now, being exposed to this shape study in 1964
Right.
was simply the appetizer for me. It opened my mind to the point that, oh my God, this is real. Not only did I see reports and study analyses and photographs, there were autopsy reports I was able to study. Because there had been crashes and retrievals of bodies and all the rest of it.
So how many pages was the report?
Oh, the study itself was about 1.5 inches thick.
Oh, so it's like a book.
Yeah, well, it was supplemented, supported by about 10 inches of appendices and, what do they call them, annexes.
Really?
There were 10 of them. So the study had laid out the problem, as any military study will do. It laid out the problem, the purpose and the meaning of the study, and some of the conclusions of the study. And then it referred to the annexes, which were the ones that had all the details.
I see.
For example, there was an annex on retrieval of bodies and autopsies with photographs.
Okay.
So once I got a chance to go through this thing, with my cosmic clearance allowed me access to it in the vault.
At any time you could go back in?
Well, at any time I was on duty in SHOC. SHAPE is Supreme Headquarters Allied Powers in Europe. SHOC is the Supreme Headquarters Operations Center. It was the war room.
Okay.
I worked in there regularly. I ran duty rosters. I was a senior NCO at the time. I was a senior master sergeant at the time. And my clearance allowed me, I had a desk in SHOC. I had a desk in the Operations Center over in the corner. And I ran the duty rosters, and I was in charge of giving assignments and all to all of the lower enlisted men. I even ran a duty roster for the controllers, which were 06 rank, colonels, captains in the Navy, and we were in the middle of a bloody Cold War.
Okay, so it was during the Cold War.
This was in 1960. I arrived in 63.
Right.
The study was completed in 64. The Warsaw Pact and NATO were lined up along a divided Europe. We were bristling with arms. We had 50 divisions here. The Soviets and the Warsaw Pact had 100 divisions here. World War III was just moments away.
Okay.
That's how close it was.
So
young
what you're
people like
saying-
yourselves cannot imagine what that would be like.
So this is a serious desk that you've got.
Yeah,
in other words.
yeah.
It's a lot of responsibility.
I worked in the war room. I had access to the vault, and my clearance allowed me there.
So we're in the middle of what's called the Cold War, and you're reading about our relationships and interactions with alien races.
Well, let me give you some reason, first of all, why the study was concluded. In February of 1961, there was a massive flyover of unidentified objects coming out of the east from the Soviet Warsaw Pact area, flying toward the west, coming over our lines, over NATO lines, over Germany, over France. These objects were very high, very fast, in formation, obviously under intelligent control.
Did you
And they
see
were
this?
circular disc shapes.
Did you see it?
I didn't, no.
Oh. Was it filmed?
I wasn't there in 61.
Oh, was it filmed?
Well, oh yes, we had film of it.
Really?
The
How
point
many
is
was
that
it? How many were
Gordon
there?
Cooper, who I'm sure you're familiar with, one of
Yeah.
our famous astronauts
Yes.
from the old years. Gordon's gone now. But Gordon shared with me one time, and he shared it publicly. He said, when I flew over Germany in the 50s, he says we'd see these things all the time. He says, we wondered what they were, because it was obviously they were under intelligent control. They would fly over our lines. They'd come out of the Soviet sector flying west, as I said, over France, Germany, France, England. They'd turn north over the southern coast of England, and then they would disappear off of NATO radar over the Norwegian Sea.
Okay, and you knew, or I assume, the government figured out they weren't Soviet. Is that right?
The government didn't know from the very beginning, at least NATO didn't, what they were. We thought they were Soviets for a time. We learned that the Soviets thought they belonged to us.
Right.
But they were very high, very obviously under intelligent control, in formation, and they would come sometimes en masse. The flyover in February of '61 was a couple of hundred of them. They couldn't count them.
Well,
and they thought, oh my God, World War III started here.
Exactly. Didn't the base at that point aim and shoot?
Everybody got on alert. We didn't have the capability to shoot because they were too high and they were too fast. And in those days, we did not have the aircraft nor the weaponry to deal with this. And they were always obviously under intelligent control.
So this is why the study was put into effect.
The study was initiated in '61. I arrived in '63. It was concluded and published in '64. And that, as I said, what's changed my life.
Okay, what was the conclusion? You said they came to some conclusion.
The study was designed initially to determine if there was a threat to Allied forces in Europe. It was a military study, a simple beginning. What the hell is going on?
Was it a yes
Is there a threat here?
Is there? Was there?
And they concluded after 3 years, apparently not. No threat.
Really?
That's right. Now, the reason they concluded that is, first of all, the technology that they had been exposed to, the technology that had been repeatedly demonstrated to our military, to the Soviets, to everybody, was so far beyond anything we had or even could imagine that the technology was almost out of this world. No pun intended. So, if there had been a threat from these guys, whoever these guys were,
right,
it would have been over a long time ago. As one of our old generals used to say, they could have cleaned our clock from the very beginning, because they demonstrated repeatedly technology that we couldn't even begin to touch.
Okay, this is in the 60s, but didn't Eisenhower have a meeting and make a treaty with these people long before that time?
Let me get back here and tell you that this study was the beginning for me.
Okay.
It opened the doors of my mind, so to speak. I could never leave it. I could never lay it down. I could never walk away from it after that. And I kept, over the years, learning more and studying more. And as I said, it's lucky I didn't end up in jail, because I drove my friends up the wall. I pushed my security clearance to the limit. I used to get into classified file cabinets and sort through material and look for photographs and reproduce things that should not have been reproduced. I was a damn nuisance,
I'm sure. So where's the stuff that you...
You see, I knew just this much, but I wanted to know this much.
I understand.
And over the years, I learned this much.
Okay, but what happened to all that stuff that you photocopied or whatever?
Oh, my God.
Is that a secret? Is that part of the reason why you haven't been...
The material that I photocopied, I don't have anymore, because being somewhat intelligent, I knew that having classified material in my possession that I was not authorized to have meant jail. And as I said, jokingly said, going to Fort Leavenworth for 30 years. So I destroyed it, but I put it here.
Right.
And I remembered, and I memorized, and I kept notes for years and years. I had a whole series of notes.